Through Jerah. All right, let me just talk to the folks out there first while I'm waiting for confirmation from everyone that our audio's feeding out to you. Everything's good. Let us know if there's any issues. We'll definitely address that. I want to remind everyone to go to hankstrange.com, sign up for the email list. We've got a lot of different kinds of information that you can get from the website. You can find out how to support us. Lola puts up deals up there. We also sell Hank Strange patches up on the website here. There you go. Lots of different Hank Strange patches if I can get them up right. And while supplies last, while if you buy these patches off the site, Lola's sending out some gun vote stickers. Make sure you guys get out there and gun vote. These came from the NSSF. They sent those a ton of these, so we're going to give them away to anyone who buys anything. I also want to tell you if you want to support us by getting t-shirts like this Gun Nerd shirt that I'm wearing here, you can go to ballisticinc.com, look for the Hank Strange store. There's lots of different t-shirts in there. Definitely check that out. Big shout out to Harry's Holsters. Thanks to them for sponsoring the podcast here. And I think, so far as I can see, everything's good. And I'm going to jump into it here. Don't forget to smash those thumbs ups and ring the bell. I will do the opening right now. Here we go.
Welcome back to the Hank Strange Situation.
All right, guys. Hit the
Lifestyles
subscribe
of the
button,
locked
smash
and
the
loaded.
thumbs ups, ring the bell so you can be notified every time we go live. My guest is Jerah Hutchins, and she's been here before, so you know about jazz hands, Jerah, right? Got to do the jazz hands. There you go. All right.
Here,
I hope
doing
you
the
guys
jazz hands.
absolutely 100%. I hope you guys have your big girl panties on out there, because you better have those on because we're going to talk about anything that we want to. Welcome to the show. This is episode 651. As I said, my guest is Jerah Hutchins, self-defense instructor. She's been on before. I think, what was that? What did I say it was? I think it was episode, I'm going to try to find it right
Is it
here.
513 or something?
Yeah, 518. So if you guys want to go
518.
check that out, Jerah was on 518. I think it was a great episode, very lively. We made some snippets out of it. So you're back. Welcome back, Jerah. How are you?
Hey, thank you. Busy but amazing.
Yes.
Busy but amazing.
Yes. You sound pretty pumped up. Do you want to? So just for the folks out there who've never heard of you, do you want to just fill folks in on who you are, what you do, real quick?
Yeah, so that's kind of gone, crazy since the last time we talked. So I'm a self-defense instructor,
Mm-hmm.
firearms instructor.
Mm-hmm.
Started my company, Clearing the Chamber, full-time in 2017. Been teaching for about 10 years, but went full-time in 2017. I started doing some human trafficking work. So shout out to Carry Girl Gear for making these really cool in human trafficking shirts. But I'm going to be buying some patches off of the Hank Strange Ballistic Ink store tonight. Those things were amazing.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Um,
The Ballistic Ink has the T-shirts, the patches, and stuff like that. You have to get from hankstrange.com.
HankStrange.com. Go get some
Yes.
patches, man. Those
Yeah.
things were awesome.
Awesome. Thank you.
And then I'm a range master for a security company. So we have a project called Project Safe Neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So we go into high crime communities and we clean it up. And it's been a lot going on. COVID's been busy for me. I think a lot of instructors can say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
People want training now. They're starting to see
Mm-hmm.
that your freedoms are a breath away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not prepared, get strapped or get clapped. I mean, that's the deal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a busy year. 2020 has been a busy year. And now it's kind of time to, get on the podcast, talk to people who are doing the things that I'm doing and reaching people who aren't doing the things that we're doing to try to educate them on the things we're doing.
Okay. Absolutely. um. Okay. So many things in here. So many things. First of all, Harry's Holsters, that sponsors the show, Harry said, "Congrats on getting on PBD's show." So he knows who this. You were telling me this before we started about PBD, which is
Oh,
Paul. Is it Paul Bet David?
Patrick Bet David. And so
Patrick, there you go.
it's so cool that Harry's Holsters knows about him. So I've got to tell you the quick rundown on how I got on that
Yes,
show.
please do.
So if you're on YouTube, you need to go and look up the Patrick Bet David show. So my friend Erin works for one of his companies, and she calls me up a few weeks ago and she said, hey, my office wants you to come and do a license to carry class. And so in Texas, you have to have a license to carry on your body. Okay. And so she said, can you come do one? I said, sure. And it was just like any other class I would ever teach. Well, what I didn't know is that Patrick Bet David was in the class. And he has a channel called Valuetainment that has 2.5 million YouTube subscribers.
Hold on a second. I think I know who you're talking about, actually. The more you say it, Valuetainment, yes. This guy, he's in Texas, but he's from California.
Right. Well, he's originally from Tehran.
Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah.
I know exactly.
Yep.
I didn't put the... I'm terrible, actually. I'm a horrible person. I know exactly who you're talking about. I do look at his videos sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's got an incredible YouTube channel. So then I get, 2 days later, I get a call from a really cool guy named Mario Aguilar, who's his he's like basically produces his channel, and he was like, hey, we want to have you on the podcast. And I was like, cool, because I've done podcasts before, whatever. So I start researching it like you would anything, so that you're prepared. And I'm like, this dude has an insane amount of followers, and I thought it was super cool that he was taking the time out to be an ambassador for his safety. And so
I'll just throw the picture up there for you guys who haven't seen him, because I think if you see once I got that picture in my head of who you're talking about, I was like, oh, I do look at that guy. I look at his videos all the time. Yeah. I was watching a video where he was talking about why, I think when he left California, a bunch of people that work with him in his business left California, and he was talking about what's happening lately. They did. You're talking about how all the COVID stuff is going on, and he was talking about how those things have made a lot of people decide to move, like Joe Rogan, etc.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He was all over it, and he has such a loyal employee base that most of them picked up and they came right to Texas with him. And now he's getting ready to go to Florida, and like 80% of his employee base is going with him to Florida, from what I hear.
Oh really?
So
okay.
yeah. So there's a lot going on with that. So doing the show was super cool, and it just kind of goes to show, like, you just never know what kind of doors God's going to open for you, because that was very unexpected. And so then he asked me, so I went and did the podcast, and then he asked me to be a contributor for the live that they were doing to cover the presidential debate, which was super fun. And so we did that. So it's been kind of cool to get to know the people at Valuetainment, and they run a really cool program over there.
Yeah. So you have basically been on rock star status.
I was like, I got my 15 minutes of rock star status. Is pretty much what I got, and then they were like, go home.
Congratulations on that. And yes, you know what, like you were saying, it's been busy too. I think for everyone in the industry, I think that there's no part of the industry that hasn't gone up, right? So everyone's selling guns, people making stuff, selling stuff, trainers, suppressors even, I've heard from people in the industry, like everything's selling.
Everything. I mean, when COVID was probably at its peak, like from the first shutdown in Texas, we had people for about a 3-week period coming into the gun range that I was teaching at, and they were like, I don't care what it is. If it has a trigger, I want it. Now, that shows you two things. It shows you, number one, how desperate people became for something to defend themselves with, because they started to figure out that the government can't protect them, number one. And then number two, it shows you how uneducated the general populace is on firearms and what's best for what situation. There's different platforms of firearms for a reason. And so when you become desperate, when you don't take the time out, when you don't carve that time out to make safety a priority in your calendar and to learn these things, then when the time comes that you need those things, you're completely uneducated and unprepared as to what you should be getting to properly defend yourself in what situation.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, you're getting some shout outs from the folks out there. Let me see. Who was this? Combat Gaming says, Jerah, I follow you on Instagram. I love your page. I'm going to throw your page up on Instagram. It's Clearing the Chamber for anyone out there. And look, Jerah just, I think, I don't know, you just probably just did this because you're pretty much the same background. So this video there, if anyone goes to Instagram, smash the love or like button, whatever people call it, on the Instagrams there. So there you go. Bam. Because it looks like the last thing you posted, you just posted it, but you didn't you probably just posted it like before.
I did just a few minutes ago. Yeah, I did a video on, what's more important, your ballot or your blessing. So everybody's all tripping about voting and tripping about our presidential candidates. And I get it. It's a really galvanizing and controversial election year that we're having right now. But your vote matters and you should go do it. But what are you doing with the other 364 days of your year? How are you digging into your community and blessing people? And you got to be doing it.
Good question. What did you think about the debate? I think you said that you were on that panel for like reactions to the debate or something, right? Was it?
Oh yeah.
So what did you think about that whole thing?
There literally nothing got done. Nothing got done. There was nobody got an answer to any important question during that debate. I was oddly surprised at how well Joe Biden actually did as far as his articulation. But you gotta wonder, because in the past, few times that we've seen him on any kind of live TV or social media, the guy's been mashed potato brains. And so it's like, how did he come from that, and get to this sort of articulate phase during the debates? And so it kind of makes me wonder, what in the Houston Astros is going on here, And
I think they one they let him rest, it looks like, and two, they probably had him pumped up on some good juice. From what I saw of that, yeah, he seemed well rested. Trump obviously was well rested, but it got combative. It got combative real fast, and I don't know what. I'm not really sure what anyone expected. I expected it to be combative. I don't know.
No, they're gonna have a fist fight in the Chili's parking lot for debate 2, is what I hear. But yeah. I'm really,
I'm with that.
Of the things, well, I'm pretty excited about. I want to see the vice presidential debate.
Okay.
I want to see how Pence and Harris deal with each other.
Okay.
I think that's going to be super interesting, but I've lost a lot of faith in these leaders. I've lost a lot of faith in the things that they can accomplish. And so I'm just kind of on a campaign in my own life, in the people that I can influence we need to quit farming out our community obligations to corrupt politicians and people that don't give a shit. And we need to start digging into our communities and protecting our people.
I don't think, this is just my humble opinion, which is probably not humble at all. I don't know. Whatever. But I don't think that any politician is going to save you. I don't think anyone else is going to save you. That's what really started me seriously down this 2A path. I came to a realization the only person who could save you is yourself. And that if you can't defend something, you don't have it. So if you think you have a life, you don't have it if you can't defend it. If you think you've got a family or a home or material things, whatever it is that you think, if you think you have freedom, you don't have that unless you can defend it, yourself. Because when the rubber meets the road, I'm trying to be nice since we're in the early part of the show here, when it really comes down to it, right? It's just going to be you and whoever else wants to take your freedom away from you, your life away from you, your possessions or whatever it is. And never, ever is there a scenario where no politician, right, is actually trying to fix your problems. They're not in the business of that.
Because if they fixed problems, if they fixed all the problems, what would be their job?
Exactly.
Yeah. And another thing to consider too is, even if most of the politicians that we had in this country were great and wonderful and not corrupt people, it's not about whether they still can't save you, even if they wanted to, because it's physically impossible. And this is one of the things that I said when I testified in the gun rights hearings that came through Dallas, Texas last October. I was like, physics dictates, it literally comes down to science at the end of the day. Physics dictates that nobody can purposefully respond to a situation of duress, whether it be home invasion, active shooter, whether it be carjacking, rape, sexual assault, whatever you want. Nobody can do it purposefully except the people that are already there.
Mm-hmm.
So, help might be
Absolutely.
on the way, but how long?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it doesn't come down to how you feel even
Mm-hmm.
necessarily. It comes down to what can actually be done in the realm of science. And that's where physics and kinesiology and things like that come into play. And you are the only one that can save you. You are the only one that can assist your family or the people who are around you,
Mm-hmm.
because you're already there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think that when we look at the whole subject of voting, I believe, I'm a naturalized citizen. I'm definitely going to vote. And I think everyone out there should vote. I'm not going to tell people how to think or who to vote for. I could tell you, who I vote for or whatever if you care to know. But ultimately, you need to go out and you need to do that. And you need to go back to the business of fixing all your problems, like you're saying. Whatever problems you have, it all starts with you. So even, a lot of people like to blame everyone else for everything that's happening to them. And in some circumstances, that's true. But I always try to divide people down. I don't try to divide people. I shouldn't say that. I think people fall into two basic categories: the deliberate and the accidental. Okay? The accidental person, everything is happening to them. Nothing is within their control. Nothing is their fault. All of this stuff is just being done to them. The deliberate person, even if they mess up, they take a deliberate look at what they did wrong. If they're in the wrong situation, they say, I'm in the wrong place. I shouldn't have been here. This is on me. And they try to do things about it, and they're
And the
deliberate
behavior
about it.
changes. The
Exactly.
behavior changes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
Mm-hmm.
the mistake isn't really the problem. It's what you do afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
That's the issue. And
Mm-hmm.
so we see a lot from people in society now. What can the government do for me? What can the government give me?
Mm-hmm.
How am I supposed to be taken care of?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of like a government's job, or a government's reason for being has sort of mutated, and we need to get back to the original plan. And the government's job is not to keep us individually safe.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a country as a whole, right, from foreign enemies and things like that, that's why we have a military.
Mm-hmm.
But the government's job is not to keep us individually safe, it's to keep us free.
Mm-hmm.
Their job is to keep us free.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we want that, which we should want freedom, then it comes with a degree of responsibility for oneself.
Mm-hmm.
And so COVID, this whole situation that we've had in 2020 with COVID, has really shown me who is, to your point, accidental and who is deliberate.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a lot of people that are sucking on the teat of the government because they don't know how to be deliberate. Nobody's ever taught them how to be deliberate.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think that, and I think there are a lot of people who are upset about this. Maybe we don't see it in the media, right? For sure, we know there's people who are just complying and, oh, whatever they tell me to do, I'm going to do it. We see those people wearing the masks in the car and all that kind of stuff, right? I'm not trying to tell anyone what to do. If you're in a situation or you, first of all, you know what's up with you. You know if you're at a high risk for something and all of that kind of stuff. But when there's people who are just going out of their way to comply with everything and not questioning the fact that the government has no plan on ending any of this, and we've been through this kind of stuff before. It's not like some aliens landed and gave us a special alien flu that we never heard of, and they're body snatching us or something crazy like that. This is literally something we've been dealing with on this planet. Life literally comes from a virus, right? I mean, it's what we're dealing with is elemental, and it's never going away.
Never.
We can never do anything about it. And if we're at the state where we're like, oh my God, the government has to tell us everything to do, all the stuff we were up to, I think we were thriving before that, you know. And maybe if we want to put it in this light of the conversation we're having, maybe we were just thriving accidentally. Because everything was going fine at that point, and then everyone decided it's okay to flush everything. Now for me and you, because of what we did, like I found myself busier than ever, like not really getting a chance to take any kind of breaks. I've worked through this whole thing. I've come in, my studio's separate from where we live. Lola works in healthcare. She's worked all the time, and we've just been going. But there's lots of people out there that were fine with shutting everything down, going on unemployment. Even when the companies are saying, come back to work, they're like, no, I don't want to go back to work. They're giving me more money to stay home. So it seems like there's folks out there that wanted this to be done. And I just ask myself, how many of us really are upset with this and want the government to get out of our way and let us go back to taking the risks we always took?
Well, I agree with that. I agree with that completely. I had about 2 weeks off, and got a lot done in the 2 weeks, clean out my garage, all that stuff.
Yeah.
The things that, you're supposed to do, idle hands are the devil's playground,
Right.
and so then I started to get a lot of requests from people that were like, look, I think this virus is complete BS. Not that it's not real. It's just, the numbers aren't adding up. Can you come to my house and teach me, So I did a lot of dry fire training with people during COVID until the ranges kind of started to open back up, because our attorney general had to deem ranges essential. So the retail spaces at firearms facilities and, gun retail spaces were always essential. But our AG had to deem ranges essential.
Okay.
So once
and you're in Texas for people if you guys don't know out there. Okay.
Yeah. So when the ranges started to open up, I was still, getting more and more requests for training and things like that. And never once, there's been 2 instances where I've worn a mask during this whole thing. I never wore one to the grocery store. I didn't wear one to the gym. Then gyms closed down and I had to be at home working out. But I didn't wear a mask in public anywhere except when I got on an airplane. And today when I went to a funeral.
Oh, wow.
Because that's just, to me, going to the funeral is not the place where I'm going to bring up the mask issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I can be, I can be sympathetic and empathetic, and, kind of, know when to bring that up and when not to, but I ain't wearing a mask to the grocery store. I'm not wearing one to the mall. And, most people didn't say anything to me about it. I had the people at Starbucks said something to me about it once. When I walked in, and she was like, do you have a mask? And I was like, no, I don't. She said, well, we kind of require masks. And I was like, well, I did a mobile order, so I just need to get my stuff and go. And also I'm a free American. So you can either, you can give me a refund on my stuff and I'll go somewhere else and get my coffee, or you can just hand me my stuff and I'll be gone in 2 seconds and then we won't have to deal with it anymore. So, there's really no end in sight for this. It literally only took them a matter of weeks to turn these people into sheeple. I mean, I've seen masks out now more than ever before. Everybody has one on. And I'm not saying don't wear one. I'm just saying that don't be afraid to exercise your choice either, because if this isn't something that you want to be mandated to do, okay? So like if I had a student that asked me to wear a mask during a lesson, I would probably do that. That's just, to me, that's a little bit of customer service if that's what they want.
Okay.
But in general, I'm not complying with this crap. It doesn't make any sense. But the problem is that we have a country full of people who don't really know how to critically think anymore. So the people like me and you who are going, this doesn't make any sense. The numbers aren't adding up. I'm okay with taking a little bit of risk because I take care of myself and I'm healthy. That's also a big thing too, is nobody wants to be the person, and this is going to be real controversial, what I'm about to say, but nobody wants to be the person that's out on social media or in public going, you know what, if you're high risk, probably 7 times out of 10, it's because you did it to your damn self. Okay. So we're going to take the 3 out of 10 people who totality of circumstances determines that they didn't do this themselves. They got cancer, or they got, certain kinds of cancer that you just get. Okay. Or they have a disease that they couldn't help. Right. But I bet you 7 out of 10 people who are high risk did it to themselves, because we're a country of people that we don't take care of ourselves anymore. So it's too hard. It's too labor intensive. It's too much effort to eat right and drink enough water and make sure that you're getting some exercise. I mean,
let's also remember, I mean, if it was really true that everyone who is overweight is going to die, then half of America would already been dead. I mean, I'm a big dude, so I'm not trying to talk about anyone. I'm a big guy, but it's kind of ironic, and all of us can stand to lose some weight, myself included. But it's very ironic that there was this thing of, oh, if you're fit and you're healthy, that you'll be okay, but then don't go to the gym and don't go outside. So none of that can actually make sense. None of that actually makes sense, right? If you're telling people that that's somehow a difference, and I'm not saying that it isn't. I think ultimately the studies that the CDC put out themselves said that most people who died, they said, what was it, 94% had multiple things. So yes, if you're overweight and you're not doing anything about it, that's one thing. But it wasn't one thing. It was multiple things. So maybe you're overweight, maybe you have diabetes, okay, you get this thing. Or maybe you have, 3 things and you get this and you can't come out from it. My father's in New York. He's an old dude, first of all, has several different issues, and he got COVID-19. He's fine, I think that's just from being an old bastard, but, I mean, hey, whatever it takes that keeps you alive, good for you.
But I think it's gotten to the point of ridiculousness.
Mm-hmm.
I was on board for the first 3 weeks when we didn't know what we were up against. And that's the time when you need to be sympathetic and empathetic and go, okay, look, we're going to shut it down. Hopefully people have a savings account. If you don't, the government's going to step in and help you a little bit. I get that. That's fine. But when you're a month and 2 months out and the numbers aren't making sense, it's time. We can't crash an economy over this. We just can't do it, because then everybody suffers.
Yeah.
Okay. But then as secondary, a byproduct of this is that people in certain positions have become emboldened to be punk asses to people, right? So my really good friend Angela got kicked off an American Airlines flight this week. Her daughter is at the Citadel, right? They went to her ring ceremony, and they were flying back, and this mom of 5 on an American Airlines flight was getting her ass chewed by some flight attendant who thinks that she's, the president. And because her 2-year-olds, twins, I believe, their masks fell off while they were sleeping. And so I guess they're getting on this connecting flight, and the chick's like, you can't get on the flight because you broke the rules. And so my friend Angela's like, hey, she's like, that's not fair. They were freaking sleeping, and they're 2. So the Texas, the mandate says that, kids under 10 don't have to deal with this. And you're just being an asshole. And they kicked her and her 2 kids off the flight. So she had to go rent a car and drive 15 hours home to get her kids back so they could go to school.
Yeah. Well, that's just to prove their authority over us. But all of that was given away. That stuff was given away after 9/11. So what you're seeing happening with flight attendants, that happened after 9/11, right? And if you look at a lot of things, I was looking at, I think Rogan had Snowden on, and Snowden said that people in America don't realize that Patriot Act and all those things, when they went into effect, we no longer have a constitution.
And he's not wrong. And so that was something that I had to research and learn about. Because 9/11, I was 19 years old when that happened. So I wasn't a big traveler. I didn't really have a lot of flights under my belt at that time. So I don't really remember a time when I've flown and the TSA hasn't been in existence, or the Patriot Act hasn't been in existence, because I was still a teenager, when this happened. So he is absolutely not wrong. It has completely stepped on the Constitution.
Yeah. There's a lot of craziness going on here. For example, in the beginning, Fauci said, and I saw this in the debate, but Fauci said in the beginning, you don't need masks. You don't need them. It's not necessary. Okay? Now, we all know. Did you go to SHOT Show?
Yeah.
If we go back to before SHOT Show, I had the flu. I think I was out in Vegas for SEMA show, and sometime after I came back from that, I had the flu. I didn't even go to the doctor. I had it. It was pretty bad. I should have gone, and I was like, oh, I'm going to fight it. It went away, and then it came back and smacked me up again. So the second time I went to the doctors, they shoved that thing up into my brain, and they were like, yeah, okay, you actually have the flu. And they gave me something for it. It went away. Everyone in our house had it, including Lola. By the time SHOT Show came around, that was the first year Lola and I went there, and one of us or both of us didn't get. Neither one of us got sick. but a lot of people were getting sick in Vegas,
Hmm.
right?
And
So
I think COVID ran
yeah,
rampant
it was
actually.
it was worse than normal. You always see it in Vegas, but it was worse than normal. I was going to booths, and half of the booth was gone. Because the people there were sick. People went home because they were sick, or they went home
Yep.
because their family was sick.
Hmm.
So there was a lot of that going on. We were all running around without masks. In the beginning they said we didn't need it. Even here in Gainesville, there was a mask thing for about 2 weeks, and then the city council took it down. Gainesville is a very liberal town. That's where the University of Florida is. So they took it down. The sheep here, the sheeple, were mad because they were taking it down. So they got mad and they put it back up. And it's
Because God forbid that you make the choice to protect
yeah, if
yourself
you want to
and
wear
wear
it,
a
wear
mask.
it.
Like, taking that down doesn't mean that you can't wear a mask. You can
Yeah,
still do it if you want to. And exactly no one is going to get mad at you.
yeah.
Exactly no one is going to care because you're making that choice
Hmm.
for yourself.
Hmm. Yeah. It's just insanity. I've seen that there's some courts that have ruled against these kinds of restrictions already, because how can you say that people can't go to a football game or they can't go to church, but they could go out there and protest? Doesn't make
That's what
any
I'm saying.
sense.
And then, I had I had people that severed their professional relationships with me
Hmm.
over some of the posts that I was making about the COVID restrictions,
Hmm.
and about, I went to the Apple store to buy a converter for
Hmm.
my tablet.
Hmm.
And I get there, and they, as soon as I get out of the car, they start yelling at me, mask, 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 mask. And I'm like, you don't even know where I'm going yet.
Hmm.
You don't even know. So you want me to be out, you want me to be outside and walk down the street with a mask?
Hmm.
Give me a break.
Hmm.
Okay. Now I am coming to see you.
Hmm.
So here's
Hmm.
what I need.
Hmm.
And the manager is just, the kid's walking up to me, and he's like, hey, how can I help you? And I was like, I need this converter thing. And he said, well, you got to order it online. Yeah,
Hmm.
but I'm here right now.
Hmm.
And he goes, yeah, but you got to order it online,
And then they
and then
bring
it's
it
got to
out to you.
process,
Yeah.
and then we call you when it's ready, and then you come get it. And I said, what's the difference between you going and get it for me right now? Like, I'll wait in my car.
Hmm.
I'll put on, you want to put on some gloves or something, like whatever you need to do to protect you, I'm fine. Okay.
Hmm.
But I'm not going to wait for an extra 4 hours when I'm already here. Like, what's the point of that? So the kid's
Control.
like, yeah, the kid's like, I know, it's really stupid. Well, his manager hears him say that and comes and starts accosting the kid
Hmm.
for, like, having his own opinion on something, God forbid.
Hmm.
So I start filming the guy.
Hmm.
And so then he looks at me and he was like, ma'am, do you want to have a conversation? I was like, I absolutely want to have a conversation about this, because we can't let these idiotic processes become truth.
Hmm.
Okay. That's what we can't do, because then people start to believe it, and then it's harder to roll back and get that freedom. Okay.
Hmm.
Get that freedom back. And so so he said, well, are you going to stop filming me? And I was like, no, because apparently you have an attitude when you're not being filmed, and I'm going to keep this camera on you. And if you want to have a conversation with me, then you're going to have a conversation with me with the camera. And then he just turns around and walks away. And I'm like, so
Yeah.
I can't. So, okay, well, if you don't want my money, that's cool. I'll get it, I'll get it
Hmm.
on Amazon. I'll be at my house tomorrow, but I was
Hmm.
in the neighborhood. You know what I mean? And it's just and they're like, well, this is what we have to do, because we have to do our part to
Hmm.
stop the spread of COVID. And I'm like, me waiting an extra 4 hours doing an online order is doing absolutely nothing to stop the spread of COVID. You people are insane.
Yeah, and
Like,
there's nothing else that they feel they have to do their part to stop the spread of anything, right? This is the weird thing about what's going on, that all of a sudden this thing is something that you have to stop, or you have to no, we've got to go to draconian measures over this one thing that happened in life. And if we accept it from now on, it's going to apply to everything. If as long as they put an emergency on something, they'll go, yeah, we have to do this. You know what? We have to, everyone has to drive electric cars, okay? It's for the planet. If you're not driving an electric car, stay home. Don't come out. We'll arrest you. This is how crazy things are actually going to get, and it really comes down to whether or not people want to be free. And the truth of the matter is, most people don't really want to be free. Most people are not wired that way. That's just a reality. that we're dealing with, right? This is why everyone's falling for it and falling into it, because they all of a sudden forgot that there was never anything else in the world that was scary.
Right.
You
I
know.
mean, we didn't even do this. We didn't even do this for AIDS.
Mhm.
And if you got AIDS
Mhm.
in like the 80s,
Mhm.
you had a 33% chance of dying of
Mhm.
AIDS.
Mhm.
This is like a 1% or less
Mhm.
chance.
Mhm.
And we didn't tank an economy over
Mhm.
a 33% chance of dying.
Mhm.
And with that particular disease, with that particular sickness, came a whole list of phobias, including homophobia.
Mhm.
Right. So we were not just combating a disease or a sickness, we were also combating a phobia
Mhm.
that needed to be eliminated. Okay.
Mhm.
So but the point is, we didn't even tank an economy for that.
Yeah, we never,
And
we
so
never,
now
we
all of a
never should.
sudden,
There's nothing that we should do it for. We shouldn't shut the country down unless we're at all-out war. And even then, I don't know if we should shut everything down. Unless that fight is going on here, what are we doing? Right? We
well,
have
and
to
you're not
keep
wrong.
everything going.
And you made a really good point a few minutes ago about when you said people don't want to be free. And I agree with that about 70%. People don't want to be free until freedom is going away for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
They're okay with taking freedom away from some people, but when it comes down to, when freedom's going away for everybody, then the revolution comes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're seeing that kind of happening right now,
Mm-hmm.
with these ridiculous mandates, and we know that that's happening because 2020 has been a record year for gun sales.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that people are getting sick of their freedoms being stomped on because of gun sales.
Well,
That's
so
actually a representation of that.
you think so? I mean, I
I do.
wonder. I wonder if it's freedom or fear. That's what I
Oh,
wonder.
I think that they're directly correlated when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to liberty. I
Okay.
think they're directly correlated when it comes to liberty because if we see pandemic mandates
Mm-hmm.
on top of a really controversial election, on top of rioters,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't say rioters and protesters because I think they're two different things, and I think they've been unfairly lumped into the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going with rioters on
Mm-hmm.
that. People are going to start to figure out that look, the cycle's going to start all over again
Mm-hmm.
because there's going to be this uprising. We're going to get liberty and freedom back. We're going to see a rollback on a lot of ridiculous laws and mandates,
Mm-hmm.
and then slowly over the decades, we're going to roll back into this situation where we have too much regulation, too many people being silenced, things like that, because at the end of the day, it's always a power grab. So true liberty and true freedom is always temporary. And then you got to, water the tree of liberty with the blood of patriots and
Mm-hmm.
tyrants.
Mm-hmm. I think okay. I think that you're right partially, but I think a lot of what I'm seeing, and probably what we're seeing out there, is people doing it based off of fear, and I'll tell you why. So for example, if we're gun guys, we've always been buying guns. Okay, all of us don't train, but we've kind of always been training or doing whatever our routines are, right? Or getting out shooting, whatever you want to call it. We've always been doing these things. But I think when they look at this 5 or 7 million people that got out there and bought everything, they're saying these are new gun buyers. These people tend to be liberal or Democrats. A lot of it are people of color. I'm not saying people of color can't be conservative or gun people or anything like that. But I agree with those stats because I see it. Because I've been talking about this the whole time, right? And I'm in this community that's here and talking to people all the time. And people say, oh, what do you do? Tell them. They're like, okay, cool. And all of a sudden, everyone knows me. The people who were like, yeah, that's fine, and put it in the back of their mind, now those people know me. Now they need to, like, well, I need to get ammo. Well, what's going on with that? I need to get a gun. What's up with that? Right? So it's those people that have been activated, and I don't think it's really like a freedom thing. I don't know that they see it that way. They're just scared. So they probably agree. Those same people agree. If you were looking at that debate, those same people are on the Biden side of all of that stuff. but something that they're seeing is telling them, oh, well, I can't count on the cops. Anything could happen. There's people burning down places. A lot of people are out there thinking actually that Trump is a racist and is supporting white supremacy, and therefore white people are coming for them, and they've got to get guns. I think we're just seeing that a lot over and over again, and that's fair. I don't think these are people who understand about the Constitution, the Second Amendment. I don't think these are people who see the difference that there's politicians out there specifically, deliberately trying to reduce those rights. I don't really believe that. I think they're just in fear, and they realize like, oh, I could go buy this thing, and they're out there. But even when they go out, what we saw a lot of people talking about is those people went out there and they weren't aware of the rules. I had someone call. I'll give you an example. A guy called me out of the blue and said he got my number from my barber. Right? That's a point, I think, in a lot of communities where people get together. Definitely in the black community. He said he got my number from the barber. He was like, "Hey, listen, I just got an AR-15. And someone told me, you're the guy to talk to. Here's my problem. I want to figure out how to get this to go full auto." And I was like, what? What are you talking about? And he was like, yeah, I need it. I don't know how to get it to go full auto, and I need that. And I was like, well, that's not technically something that you can't actually do that. Not to say you cannot do it, but you're going to have, there's a whole bunch of hoops that you're going to have to jump through before you can actually do that. So most people cannot do it. It's illegal for you to do it. Why do you even want to do that? He said, well, because, in the movies, that's what you need to do. I want to make it more accurate like I see. So everything that it just gets worse. If I go on with this conversation, you're going to lose your mind. Because I was like, wait a second. You want this thing to go full auto so that it's more accurate? He's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, that's full auto's not going to make it more accurate. And I'm saying to him, if you want it to be more accurate, that's, you want to shoot slowly. You want to slow down and I'm asking him, are there optics on this? He's like, I don't know. What are you talking about? So, we could keep going with this story, but the point I'm trying to make to you, there were lots of phone calls like that after that. There were lots of conversations with people like that. That's funny. Your dogs. So that I think that really what we're dealing with, and it's going to be interesting to see how many of those new people turn around and go, yeah, we're not like actually paying attention and decide, yeah, I'm not voting for Biden, Harris, because those guys are saying they're going to take away guns. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. That will be the answer, I think, to this question, to this conversation you and I are having. If we actually get a President Biden, it says that those people out there, to me, looked at all of that, and it wasn't because of freedom, it was because of fear that they did what they did.
So I think that we're actually making the same point, but just in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think that we're going to see the fruits of any, left-leaning gun buyer for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that fear is the beginning of a pathway to understanding your freedom. So
True.
fear
Mm-hmm.
initiates the purchase
Mm-hmm.
of the firearm, which initiates the necessity to learn about the firearm.
Mm-hmm.
So now this guy's calling you and you're just like, okay, buddy, listen, full auto does not equal accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Number one, which is going to initiate a whole nother many more conversations on training. And as he goes through training, especially with someone like you, he's going to start to learn about why the Second Amendment is so important, why it's directly correlated to the First Amendment, and how we need to have it. And I think that so fear initiates the purchase, which initiates the education, which initiates the change.
Right.
Okay, so it always has to be education before legislation. So I think we're making the same point.
Yeah.
Just in different ways, I think you're absolutely correct. Is we're not going to see a lot of sort of left-leaning firearm purchasers make the realization out of their fear probably until the next election cycle.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that. By the way, I swallowed my water wrong.
Okay, it's fine.
Jerah's not making me cry. We haven't gotten to
Don't
that
lie to
level.
the audience. Don't lie to the audience.
If anyone could
Getting
do it, you could
emotional.
do it. If anyone could do it, you could do it.
You're emotional.
Yeah.
I get it. It's fine.
I was having this conversation with Lola before we did this. I was like, when I first saw Jerah, I was like, oh, yeah, this chick is on the ball.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that sounds like sexist or whatever, but I think when you see people, one of the things is that you could tell who you're dealing with when you're dealing with people, right? Based on how people are. So I could always tell when I'm dealing with someone that has an opinion and they feel very solid in that, and they know how to talk to anyone and get into any situation. Because I've seen people who may seem very aggressive, but there's certain situations where you see them come out, and then certain situations where they step back and they don't say anything. So I always knew. I told Lola, there's no way, man. I probably don't even have to say anything. We could have a conversation with Jerah, and she's going to have a lot of stuff to say with it. And I agree with you. I think we're kind of in the same place. Yeah, you have to get scared first. That's for sure.
You do.
That's just a human being thing, right? We need to have that
Absolutely.
fear. I think, like when you said that, what it reminded me of is years ago, before I really got into this, I started having like these nightmares. My kids were a lot younger. Now they're 20 and 21, but they were probably, I don't know, 3-4 years old. And I started having this nightmare that the whole world went to apocalypse mode, and I got separated from Lola and the kids. And I wasn't worried about me. I was worried about them. So I would just have these dreams over and over again where I'm trying to find them. And they were always like, if I would catch up to them, they're out there fending for themselves. And I think it was my brain saying to me, what would your family do without you?
Mm-hmm.
Right? What would you do if this stuff happened? And that's the place where this thought came to me that I'm the one responsible for everything. I need to figure out what's going on. I need to figure out how to defend myself, how to take care of myself, fix my problems. But I can't do that just for me. I need to make sure that Lola is thinking in along those lines, and that we're passing that on to our kids. So without a doubt, I 100% agree with you that that fear is more than just a mind killer, like they said in Dune. I don't know if you're nerdy. I don't know if you're nerdy enough to know about Dune. So
I'm nerdy enough to know about
okay,
Dune.
cool. It's more than just a mind killer. I think it's you facing that fear and then taking those steps. So the question is, how many Americans out there are going to take those further steps? If they're really scared. So for example, one of the things that really worried me, and especially in the beginning of this, but we've seen it the whole way through. There's lots of, when the media gets to people, there's lots of black people that say they're getting these guns because they're worried about white people. And it makes me think, okay, I know there's things going on, without a doubt. We can't deny that. There's people who don't like other people because of the way they look. There's people who do bad things. But if you're doing this solely for that, if someone's convinced you that the boogeyman is every white person out there,
Mm-hmm.
then something's massively wrong. It's just like if someone convinces you that the boogeyman is every police officer out there, something's wrong. If someone tells you that it's every Republican or every Democrat, I don't do anything that I do based on that. Like, oh, I got to get these guns because what about these white people?
Right?
So that really worried me because I'm thinking, okay, that's fair making someone do something, but where's the part where they realize that more than likely, statistically, the enemy, the person who's going to want to take your freedom, your life, your property away from you is going to look just like you.
100%.
That's statistics. 100%. That's not even living in America.
And statistically, it could be somebody that loves you or that claims to love you. I mean, if you're talking about domestic violence,
mm-hmm.
You made a couple of really solid points there that I want to touch on. First of all, and I've been a huge proponent of this for the last couple of years. Blanket statements are bad.
Mm-hmm.
I make it a point not to make any kind of blanket statement, not to say things like Democrat, because of Democrats,
Mm-hmm.
XYZ, right?
Yeah.
It could be because of some Democrats, or because of Democrats that hold a lot of power, or
Mm-hmm.
because of Republicans this, or because of black people that, or because
Mm-hmm.
of white people that, like, or because of cops that, so the whole ACAB,
Mm-hmm.
thing,
Mm-hmm.
is bad. So I try to stay, as a sort of a personal responsibility, I stay away from blanket statements. But the
Mm-hmm.
second thing and probably the most important thing that you said out of all that was, you said, I got to take this on because it's my responsibility, because I'm the man and I'm the dad. It's
Mm-hmm.
probably what you were thinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm the leader of the family, right? But then you said, but I got to make sure Lola is thinking this way too. And this is something that I think that if you're an instructor watching this podcast, I
Mm-hmm.
want to encourage you to do something with your training curriculum. And here's what it is. You need to start thinking about how your teachings are going to affect people's households.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so, because you are teaching something that is insanely important, it's probably one of the most important skills that a set of parents could ever have.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so, when you're thinking about that, don't just think about the next class, or how many rounds that somebody needs to bring to class, or what kind of gear that you're going to, promote out on social media. I started writing workshops. I
Mm-hmm.
started writing that have absolutely no range time at all.
Mm-hmm.
I started writing workshops that pertain to time management and marriage. So because I get a lot of husbands that come to me
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, look, I'm starting to see the benefit of my wife being with a female trainer for a particular amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I really, really need you to reach out to my wife, because here's what my wife does. She will, and it's affecting their marriage. I mean, people are like on the brink of divorce because there's not consistent safety messages in their marriage to their children.
Yeah.
Okay. So it could be that the husband's like super pro gun and super pro safety, and the wife's like, oh, I don't want guns in the house because the kids could this and the kids could that. You know what I mean? And it's a lot of times it's because she doesn't have the education to understand how technology has advanced, especially over the last decade, when it comes to how you can lock up your guns away from your kids.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so I started writing these workshops that parents can come to together, where they can learn specifically about how Texas law correlates to the safety of your kids, and how you're supposed to, store your firearms, and how to talk to your kids about guns, and how to take the curiosity out of it, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're an instructor and if you're teaching guns, and especially if you're a married instructor teaching guns, and you and your wife, or you and your husband, if you're a female instructor, you have these messages, now you're a marriage counselor.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're doing it right in your house, and you need to start teaching people how to do it right at their house. Because I had a husband come to me and he's like, my wife literally pulled over the other day for a man who was having car trouble with my 2 toddlers in the backseat.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, and I lost my mind. And why wouldn't he?
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't know him.
Mm-hmm.
She's got her kids with her. She doesn't know what could happen. I mean, this is literally the setup for every horror movie out there.
It's real life too.
And so it's like,
people have died like that.
So I think that if you're an instructor and you're
Mm-hmm.
watching this, you got to start thinking outside of your physical training.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to start thinking about your mental and mindset training that you are transferring to your students, and how are you teaching them or encouraging them or influencing them how to think. So if you're a tactical Tommy instructor and you're like, go for the kill shot all the time so they can't tell their story,
Mm-hmm.
kind of instructor, you need to start rethinking that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you should be going for the center mass shot because it's tactically advantageous and safer for you to hit your mark and not kill someone else. That's kind of what you need to be teaching. You don't necessarily need to be teaching because they can't tell their story.
Yeah.
Right. So quit poo-pooing people's gear, quit thinking about the next, tactical Tommy class that you can teach, and start giving a little more time about how you're becoming a community advisor for people and their families.
Yeah. And I think, one of the things that I could say, and Lola and I, we don't teach anyone. We're not instructors. This is basically what I do right here. I entertain the people. Hopefully you Are you not
Are you not
entertained? There you
entertained?
go, boom. The thing is I think so. Marriage. This is a marriage question here because I know people always say, "Well, how do you get Lola to shoot with you?" Blah blah blah. First of all, Lola doesn't shoot with me all the time. Lola doesn't. She's usually in the background helping out. She's in the background right now. In a lot of videos, she's there in the background, but it doesn't happen that way all the time. And there's no perfection. So Lola and I are not perfection. But the thing is if you're in a relationship with someone, I always, and I got in trouble for this. I would not get married to someone unless this was the way it went. I look at marriage like a business. You're not going to get into a business with a person that you cannot get along with, that you're not on the same wavelength. Okay?
On a lot of important things.
Yes. It doesn't have to be everything. It
Right.
really doesn't. Lola and I were arguing before I called you up and we started doing this thing, right? So I'm just trying to tell you guys that this is reality here. We don't agree on everything. We're like actually very opposite kinds of people, but we're on the same wavelength. So I think everything that you do, it starts from there. If you're dealing with, if you're married and you have kids and all that, it's the same wavelength. Husband and wife have to get on the same wavelength at least with important things. And then the kids need to get on that wavelength. I remember.
So what are the important things though? What are like top 3 most important things that you got to agree on for a successful marriage?
The top 3, I don't know. That's an interesting thing. I think so. I don't know. I look at it like I rank everything like this. I put my family. So I put Lola and the kids, and then myself. So I look at it like, okay, we've got to take care of each other. Okay. And then I think after that, I think about everything else that comes down line from that. So now it's interesting what comes down line from that, right? I'm going to come down line from that, what I want to do with my life and all that kind of stuff. Where are our goals? Where are we going to?
Okay.
So I don't know if I could. I'm probably not answering that good, right?
Well, I'll tell you mine.
Okay.
I'll tell you mine.
Mm-hmm.
So it's faith, safety, money.
Okay.
Those are the 3 things that
Mm-hmm.
that me and my person
Okay.
have to be on the same wavelength on. Now look, food, hobbies, things like that. We can totally be on opposite spectrums of the, right? But my faith, my
I would
safety,
agree with that.
and how I spend my money
Mm-hmm.
have to be on the same wavelength.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. Yeah, I think I would
Now
agree
we
with
know.
that. Yeah, I think that's good. I don't know. I couldn't put it in my brain exactly like that because I wasn't on that
And
path.
the reason that it's that way is because I think faith should always come first, right? And then my safety comes second, and that's a book that I'm actually writing right now is the Christian principles of self-defense, and
Okay.
what does God's word say about how we're able to defend ourselves physically, and then money, because and this might sound a little strange, but I give away a lot of money, right? So like I have a tithing thing going on, and I have a nonprofit,
Okay.
and things like that. And so I use funds for a lot of different things. And so whoever's with me has to be super comfortable with, we may not live like a rich, lavish life, okay? Because my community efforts are much more important to me than, how much money that I have in the bank.
Okay.
So, and it's not that I don't save money or that that's the thing that, really got me through COVID was, having that cushion, having that savings account. But I'm also not like hoarding money in my mattress, when I can't take it to the grave with me. So I'm not worried about, like helping out people in my community.
Oh, okay.
And I think that, if more people had a mindset like that, if we could be, the church, a better church in our community, we wouldn't have a government that's trying to impose 90 different taxes on us all the time.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
No, I see what you're saying. First of all, I think when it comes to money, so I'm going to be a completely weird person probably to a lot of people out there. My philosophy on money as a dude has always been this, and I don't know. I guess I don't know if that's from my parents because I don't really think that they got down like that. Any kind of money that I make now, when I was single, completely different thing here, right? Do whatever I want to do. From the day I met Lola, if I made a dime, it's all hers. Then I try to figure out what I can get back out of it. So that's how I'm just trying to tell you something. This is how I look. This is
You
how I look at
you
money.
are so smart. You are so
It's not.
smart.
It's not being smart. It's not. I'm not trying to say that to you to try to be. You can ask Lola. I've always been like that. Before we got married, when we met each other, we started living together. When I made, and actually Lola was in school. She was working, but she was mostly in school, and I was the one mostly working. Um, so I made the money back then. I was the sugar daddy back then. But the thing is that I would make money and I would give it to Lola, and I might take some money to get gas and maybe eat something. And I've just always been like that, and I found that works, and I think it works because of the kinds of risks that I take. So I think in a relationship, there's certain things you have to give up to each other. You have to look at the other person and go, what am I going to give up to this person that I feel, because we're both very strong people. I think we're both alphas, me and Lola, right? We're like that. So whatever
Mhm.
arguments we have usually comes out of that. Like, she wants to boss me around, and I'm like, no, you're not the boss of me. I'm the boss. Then that's how we argue, right? But there's certain things you just have to give up to each other. If you feel like this person knows or understands that, you have to give it up to them. And I'm just saying that, to me, money's one of those things. Because just me as a guy, I don't know what's a good way to say it, if I'm more risk averse or whatever, but I will take risks with money
Yes,
because, yeah, my
I
my
will too.
my brain
I will
tells
too.
me, oh, you can, whatever, you can make money.
Yeah.
If you're alive, you can make money, and you could
And
do whatever you want to do.
that's how I feel. I'm like, you can make more money, but you can't get more time.
No,
So
yeah,
I got to fit, so I'm not worried. I'm not as worried about the money as I am about
yeah, yeah.
about the time.
So,
So good.
so I don't know if
That was a
I don't.
lot. We did a lot just
Yeah,
now.
yeah, but that's just me. Q James says, "Damn, Hank, tells a lot about you, Mr. Strange." Well, that's the reason people are always wondering about me. Like, how come Lola? People always say, "How come Lola lets you do that?" That's a crazy. That's always a crazy question to me. Like, I don't understand what you're talking about. And I think it is that ultimately, to me, like, I think, like I said to you, I care about my family, like Lola and the kids. I care about their health and their security and all that kind of stuff. If you're a dad, if you're a man out there and you do, or if you're the breadwinner, and the other person is more like financially minded, let's say, right? You know, I think that person should be in charge of the money, and then you do what you need to do. Whatever I need to do, I go, hey
Work
Lola, I
within
need
your
to do this.
strengths.
Yeah,
Work
exactly,
within your strengths.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Plus it makes it easier when you do crazy stuff like me. Lola knows I'm not like pulling off any tricks or anything like that. So Vanessa Kitty says, how much money is enough? My answer is going to be, there never. That's the one of the problems with money, and it's a made up thing. It's like, for a long time, for most of our existence as human beings, and I'm not sure where you come down on this particular thing, but however long that's been, millions of years or whatever, we didn't have money, right?
Yeah, we bartered.
Yeah, we bartered things. So this concept of money it's in the mind. So even maybe in the beginning of money, it was based on some like precious metal or something like that. I don't. It's definitely not that anymore. So I think, especially with that going on, there isn't any kind of level that, oh, this is enough. It's just, if so, in other words, if you're like, oh, if I had $1 million, that would be enough money. When you get there, you're gonna be like, no,
You'll want more.
yeah, I think I need a
Yeah.
hundred
Yeah.
million. So
So it has to be less about the question really isn't how much money, it's just how much
hmm
do you need. That's the question. So when I was in my 20s and I was in the oil and gas business and I was making a ton of money,
hmm
I had the house, I bought a house and I had several cars and I had jet skis and all kinds of like 2 closets worth of clothes and got all this stuff.
uh-huh.
And when I was engaged at the time, and I was like, God, when I was looking, I remember sitting down and looking at all the things that I had to gather for my taxes, and just out of sheer curiosity, I calculated my tax burden,
hmm
and I was paying more to insure my things than my mortgage.
hmm
Okay. And so that was kind of a big light for me. And I was like, I need to make a change. And so I sold, like, broke up with this dude because we clearly didn't have the same values when it came to money, or anymore at least. Okay. So broke up with the dude, sold the house, sold the jet ski, sold the car, sold stuff. Okay. And now I live such a minimalist life that I could literally pack everything I own in about 5 hours.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I can just pick up and go. And but that's the kind of life.
Well, 5
that
hours
I
is a long
lead.
time. That's not 90 seconds like in the movie Heat.
You know, like,
So,
right.
That's
So,
that's
but I
still a
can
long
literally
time,
take
Jerah.
everything I own, and I can live in a small space.
Yeah. No, I
And
understand
so
that.
that's what I wanted. Is I didn't want to have a bunch of things that I had to spend wasting money insuring things when I could be using that money to better my community, or I could funnel that money into my nonprofit, and I could use that to teach, low income women and single moms how to defend themselves like that. So so how much money is not the question. It's just how much, and then attaching yourself, to a purpose, I think is a big part of that too.
Okay. And I would say if we're going to rank some stuff here, I don't know how you rank these things. I put like happiness, health, wisdom, then wealth. Right? So happiness is always the most important thing. Now, happiness all of these things are more complicated than just a word. Happiness, I think, has to do with your spirituality, your beliefs. Happiness is a moving kind of thing, and it's not the same for everyone. I think what would make Lola happy is not what would make me happy. It'll make her happy if I do the dishes or cook or rub her feet or something like that. My happiness is completely, different thing. So I think, and then that's why I say like happiness, health, you do actually need your health. Whether with you, you're just not going to be able to function.
Because if you don't have it, you're not living.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. And then I think wisdom is an important thing. And then comes the wealth thing. But the truth of the matter is like, there's lots of people that have all the money in the world and they're not happy. There's people who have no money and they have some kind of happiness. Most of us are going to be somewhere in the middle of that. And I think it really comes down to, like for example, guns, right? We're into guns. So, is there a number of how many guns are going to actually make you happy? I think ultimately that's how many guns can you actually enjoy for whatever reason you enjoy them. If it's training, just shooting, competition, or just owning it, that's, it's always going to be limited to what you can actually see and put your hands on if you want to quantify something.
Absolutely.
If
I
that
agree,
makes any
100%.
sense. Yeah.
And I love that. Happiness, health, and then it was
happiness, health, wisdom, and then wealth. Yeah. To me.
Yeah.
To me.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to write that down.
Yeah. And I'm far from a guru or anything like that. Don't ever listen to me. If Lola was talking to you right now, she would tell you there's a reason why she runs the money. And
that's why it's so low on your list.
Well, if I had $100 million, I would, first of all, like I said, give it all to Lola, and then I would beg her for $50 million. And then that $50 million, I'm going to try to see if I could do like $100 million deal. That's how my brain works. That is not necessarily a good thing. I'm just telling you. Okay, listen, if you, actually, Harry's Holster says obtaining things are more fun than owning them. So that's
he's got a point.
Yeah, there's certain things I'm not into anymore. And I think I saw someone here saying it as you get older. So there's certain things, like I think when I was younger, I thought a home was really important. And a lot of first of all, like for me, coming from another country, I think definitely this happened. My parents, and I was born in Guyana, which is a very socialist kind of place, somewhere between socialism and communism. And the people there could be very intelligent, very educated, but my parents never really taught me about money. And so then growing up here, it kind of, like I saw everyone thought that their home, that was the most valuable thing. And I think even Lola and I got into that kind of a thing. But over time, I came to realize like a home could actually be this massive burden. Because what you always have to ask yourself about the things that you own or your possessions that you have, it's kind of like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Do these things feed you or do they eat you?
Uh-huh. And I don't own a home right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that, in my, where I'm at in my journey, I don't look at owning a home as something that I feel like is a necessity for me.
Mm-hmm.
It would be a burden for me
Mm-hmm.
right now. And
Especially
so you have to really
if you're
look at
still
that. So
young and moving
yeah,
around and doing stuff,
yeah,
because now you got to sell it if you want to move, you got to do this.
yeah.
You got to
So
pay taxes.
you can't let the PC rules of society dictate your life.
Mm-hmm.
You got to do, you got to do you. So if you want to go live in an RV,
Mm-hmm.
who cares?
Mm-hmm.
Who cares? Go live in an RV or go get a roommate or go, live, get an apartment if that's what you want. Rent if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously you need to educate yourself on money. I think we're doing our kids a huge disservice, on that right now. There's a lot of money education that should be going on in homes that's not going on.
Yeah. Do you have kids?
No,
No. Okay.
no.
What's your background, if you don't? I don't know if we've ever talked about this. And I think some people were asking earlier. Although we're going to get into some other stuff here. Were you in the military? Kind of like, who is Jerah Hutchins?
Oh man. So this is it's really interesting. So I grew up in a military family,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not military
Mm-hmm.
yet. So
Okay.
I wanted
That's a
to. I
mysterious
tried to
yet right there that you just threw
yet.
out. Uh-oh.
Yeah, we're gonna get there. So I didn't. I tried to go into the Marine Corps when I was 18, and my mom had a cow.
Mm-hmm.
Not a cow, the whole farm.
Mm-hmm.
The whole farm came out.
Right.
And
Goats,
so,
some little
yeah,
goats, some
all of
little
them.
chickens
Yeah,
here. There. Okay.
everything came out. Okay. So I didn't go into the Marine Corps. Then when I was 36,
Mm-hmm.
37, sorry,
Mm-hmm.
I tried to go into the Air Force,
Mm-hmm.
and they wouldn't take me because I don't have any peripheral vision on the right side of my face.
Okay.
So, which was mind blowing because I had like a 91 ASVAB score.
Okay.
And I passed. I went to MEPS 4 times, passed all the physical stuff. So literally, when they came back, they said, we can't have you in the military if you don't have any peripheral vision.
Okay.
Which was mind blowing. So my recruiter was floored. So I decided last month to go into the Texas State Guard.
Okay.
Which is not federal military, it's state military. So the only person that can activate me is going to be the governor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I swear in on October 17th
awesome.
to go Texas State Guard.
Okay.
And you'll see me. I'm going to be shooting in the governor's 20 next year.
Okay.
So we're not a military force that is armed, but we can still shoot in the governor's 20. So I'm going to go smoke some people next year, and it's going to be fun.
Oh, cool.
So So then I come from a military family. My 8th great grandfather was actually Tanner Creason, who was the leader of the Iroquois Confederacy. And spoke for the Six Nations and was George Washington's translator. So I'm Native American on my grandmother's side, and then on my grandfather's side, I'm Sicilian. And then my grandparents on my father's side are from Ireland.
Okay.
So really cool, kind of just
you got your Sicilian. You know what they say about those Sicilians. No.
Oh yeah, this is my mob in the family.
Yeah.
We got 5 families.
I grew up in New York, so I dealt with a lot of Sicilians.
So I came up in a household that respected the Second Amendment, and then but I didn't really get super into it until in my early 20s. I had a stalker, and I started to think to myself, what would I do if I wasn't home? How would I protect myself? You never know, what's going to happen. And then I started to get into the handgun game. So I was a competition shotgun shooter, competition rifle, when I was in my teens. And then I didn't get into the handguns until I was 20. And so when I was going through my handgun training, it was a very uncomfortable experience because I was being trained by people who were honestly just bored with me. Like they didn't want to train a woman. You know what I mean? It wasn't fun to train a woman because, I wasn't going to get plated up. I wasn't going to, have my tactical carry, my carry shit. And, I wasn't going to do any of that stuff, or at least they didn't think I was going to do any of that stuff.
Okay.
But I wanted to get that education because I had really become obsessed with protecting myself. And so then after I went through that training and I was starting to go to the gun range by myself, and I was kind of putting it out, on social media, and I was it was coming up in conversations with my girlfriends. They were like, take me to the range. So I would take them to the range and I would teach them, and then they would tell their friends and they would tell their family, and so on and so forth. And word of mouth is a very powerful thing. So before I knew it, I had a part-time sort of side hustle teaching people how to shoot guns. And then in 2017, I decided that I wanted to go and get my license to carry certification, so that I could teach people, so I could certify people to carry guns in Texas on their body. And they told me at the Department of Public Safety, where I took the class, that I would never make a full-time living doing it. And I told them they were out of their minds because they don't know how to identify an underserved market.
That was your motivation, I take it.
That was my motivation. Yeah. So I came back to, I did the class over the weekend, and then I came back to Texas, I came back to Dallas, and immediately stood up Clearing the Chamber as a company. So that's what I'm at on Instagram and Facebook, is at Clearing the Chamber. And I was busy. I thought, okay, well, this is going to take some time to ramp up, because I'm gonna have a couple classes a month, maybe. When I rolled it out at the end of November, I had 28 classes in December.
Okay.
I had 28 classes. So I started, so being business minded, my grandfather was an entrepreneur. He was a small business owner, and he kind of taught me about that kind of stuff. So I stood up pricing plans for single students, couples, small groups, large groups, and I would write curriculum. So a lot of people in my family have, like, my aunt's a mystery novelist. My grandmother was a poet. So we're writers, and once upon a time, I wanted to be a journalist. And so I just started writing my own curriculum. I just started taking things that I learned, and I started formulating it into a curriculum that was good for women. I'm a woman, so I know how they learn. But I also was trained by men, grew up in a military family, so I understand how it actually works. So that was the benefit, is I can take the how it works and not make it boring for women, because women don't want to sit in a class and learn about the anatomy of a firearm. That's boring to them, right? But then the mistake that men make when they're trying to teach women how to shoot is they do everything for them. I can't tell you how many women I have that come to me that were like, well, my husband always did this, and then he just hands me the gun and I shoot it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so he's teaching you he's teaching you marksmanship and nothing else.
Yeah.
Right. So there's steps before the marksmanship.
That's like I equate that. I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but
no, you're good.
I equate that to driving a car, but you can't pump your own gas.
Right.
And I've seen it.
Or you don't understand the maintenance behind the car, or you're buying a car, you don't understand that there's insurance involved and the car payment,
right? The dynamics. Like, I remember one time I saw there was a couple, and I guess it was the woman's car, and she was driving, and the boyfriend or whatever said, "I'm not going to pump your gas. You have to do it yourself." And I literally, me and a whole bunch of other people were watching her just curse this guy out because he wouldn't pump the gas. And I think it's like that, ultimately everyone's defense is on them, and you don't have anything that you can't defend. So as a woman, that's really the superpower. I think if you look at a lot of what's going on in the movies and everything, they kind of just make people think they have superpowers because they exist, but you've got to work for that. Right?
Absolutely. And so I think that what I've done, I think that what I've been successful at is getting women to geek out over the stuff that they don't really want to geek out about when it comes to guns, right? So you've got to deliver it in a way that's not condescending, that's not intimidating, and that's not boring. And if you can do that, then you get women to come in and want to spend time doing it, but you got to put them on a plan. Women want a plan. They want a checklist and they want a plan. Where do I start, and when am I considered an experienced shooter, and what do I need to do in between? And then, you got to send them a list, right? So when I do my introduction to handgun classes, I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they do that is they go, okay, well, this is all the stuff that you need to bring to intro to handgun. No, you need to price it such a way, and you need to provide everything, because remember, it's intro to handgun. Okay.
So they don't necessarily
know
have
anything
one.
Yet.
Yeah.
So if you send them a list of shit to bring, they're not going to know what half that stuff is, and they might get the wrong stuff, and now they've wasted money, and you don't have enough supplies for the class.
You've also made it a whole thing before.
You made it a thing, right? So so when I teach introduction to handgun, all they got to do is show up. All I tell them to do is show up, wear closed-toed shoes, avoid low-cut tops, and bring a good attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all you need to do. I provide everything else because I want to show you what you need. I'm going to give you a gear list when you leave so that you know you need the range bag and maybe the speed loader, because speed loaders save manicures. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you need that. And maybe you need your eye and ear protection. And then now you get to try all these different guns. So you get to decide what's going to work best for you instead of the 38 special that every husband and brother and, father seem to default to.
So you mean you don't tell the women, like I tell Lola, that the problem is her nails? You got to get rid of those? No, that's bad.
So there's a difference between nails and a manicure.
Okay.
So like that's a manicure.
Hold on.
Okay.
Right. Let me see it again.
So that's a manicure.
All right.
There.
There you go. Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't have them long ass nails
mm-hmm.
that you're going to scratch eyeballs out with. Okay. You can't. That's going to be tough for you it's going to get stuck on the trigger guard, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to there is a little bit of a lifestyle change that has to happen
mm-hmm.
if you're going to be somebody that totes around a gun all the time.
Yeah.
And so one of the lifestyle changes is you got to cut them nails a little shorter.
Yeah. Let me get a quick question in here because James Miller gave us $10 here to ask this question. He says, Mr. Hank, Kathleen music lover, needs to know what pistol Jerah shoots. Boom. There you go. So thanks to both of you.
I have several. So guns and gear have kind of become like accessories to me, like necklaces and earrings,
mm-hmm.
right? So if I'm just running around every day in jeans and tennis shoes or boots or whatever, I'm probably going to carry the Glock 43. If I'm wearing a dress, I'm probably and I'm carrying in a thigh holster, I'm probably going with the SIG 238. Recently purchased a 365 and love it.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe going to integrate that in as my new sort of everyday carry. But I also have really become super excited about the Smith & Wesson Easy Shield series. So I don't personally carry that every day, but I have put it in my introduction to handgun inventory because there's a lot of women out there that don't have a lot of hand strength, or they're arthritic, or they have some other, carpal tunnel issues and they can't really get a slide back and forth. And
mm-hmm.
those guns, man, kudos to Smith & Wesson for that.
Mm-hmm.
Those guns have come on the market and really kind of changed the semi-auto game for women who have hand issues.
Yeah.
And so, women with hand issues typically will default to a revolver,
yeah.
and then they hate that too because of that painfully long trigger pull. So they're trading one painful element for another, and that's not cool. So
mm-hmm.
the Smith & Wesson Easy Shield series has really kind of solved that problem.
Yeah, if you're gonna build guns for women, which I get it, but I'm not saying that's the way to go necessarily. But if you're gonna do it, then actually build it for what women want. Don't go, let's make some pink guns.
Yeah, you got to think way more than the optics and the aesthetics of it,
yeah.
right? You got to get into what are the problems that women are having. And
mm-hmm.
look, the Easy Shield series isn't just for women. There are a lot of men
mm-hmm.
that have those problems too,
yeah.
especially as men age and they start to deal with arthritis issues and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
One student that I had, and I didn't put this on social media because she wanted to keep this super private, but I had a student, 3 weeks ago that I taught who didn't have all of her fingers.
Mm.
And so the Easy Shield was
yeah.
super easy for her because she could rack it with 2 fingers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So we have to think about people with disabilities.
There
too.
are a lot of people, and I hear from those people all the time, men, women. So for sure, I think that definitely is a good way to go. And everyone doesn't want to do the revolver thing. Also, I would say to you that, I agree 100% with what you're saying about women and how they want to be trained. And I think that not every guy wants to go to that, that super militarized trainer either. I don't want to do that. I have a problem with that. When there's trainers out there that act like they're military and then everyone around them acts like them, to me, it just makes me go, yeah, I don't really want to do this.
Well, I think people get off on the story.
Mm-hmm.
Like they want to take, if they're going to train guns,
mm-hmm.
they want to train with somebody who has a story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a combat vet or, somebody that's been in law enforcement who maybe has seen a little action.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
But just because they've done that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be a good trainer.
Mm-hmm.
It does mean they have a good story, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be a good trainer.
Yeah.
And so It's partially about how the student wants to be trained, but you also have to slide into and train them in the way that they need to be trained. And so if you've got a high anxiety person, and I get a lot of women that are high anxiety, I mean, that'll literally walk on the range and start crying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But they're looking for somebody that's going to be kind to them and patient with them and get them where they need to be, where they can kind of overcome that anxiety. And so you got to train them how they need to be trained. But then you also have to get them to the point where you train them into accountability. And so that's one thing that I think that I do is I'm following up with people. I had to hire an assistant, right? Because I'm backlogged right now. So she's got to do all my scheduling because I need to get back to the point where I'm following up with my students and going, have you gotten this done yet?
Mm-hmm.
What's your time management looking like? Are you thinking about holster options? And holding them accountable. And then when they come back to train with me, I quiz them on the things they learned before.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they don't know the things they learned before, why aren't you studying that? So I think that women especially, and I think men too, but my business is mostly women. Women should be spending at least 4 hours a month
Mm-hmm.
doing stuff with their gun, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can do that in a multitude of ways. You can spend 10-15 minutes every other day doing dry fire exercises at home with your gun. You can go take a 2-hour workshop. You can go sit through a license to carry
Mm-hmm.
class. You can spend that time reading current events,
Mm-hmm.
where
Does
people are having
YouTube
to
video
defend themselves
count?
with their guns.
No.
YouTube videos.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you need to, especially because I tell women too, you need to be going to the school of YouTube to look at ballistics.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of gun owners aren't learning ballistics. How many layers of sheetrock is the 12 gauge going to go through versus the 9mm versus the 45 versus the 223?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you need to know that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
especially if it's a platform that you own.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a big education out there when it comes to guns, and you can do a lot of it in the comfort of your own home. You just got to know how to, and you've got to be accountable to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. What I was saying though, with there's this whole thing. There's lots of people that I've trained with that have been in the military, been in law enforcement, have done both of those things, and I trained with them. They don't have. There's this weird attitude that I see happening a lot, right? Where and it's not. I don't think it's just the way that you dress, but it's certain people are doing this for some kind of super ego boost. And I prefer a more casual like environment, right? If we're not on a war footing, I don't want to be on the war necessarily on that war footing. And I think that a lot of the bravado or whatever's going along with that, it's very dangerous. And I see people getting together, and then it becomes like a pecking order or some kind of ranking thing, and everyone, that kind of thing, I think is turning off a lot of guys. I'm speaking from a guy point of view. Sure, I'm sure most women out there don't want that either, but a lot of guys don't want that. We want to go and train, and I respect the fact if you actually were in combat or you were in a situation where your life was on the line, but you're cool about it.
Yes.
You're not like, I'm not paying you for that. I can respect that and I can appreciate that, but I'm not paying you for that, or I'm not paying you to have some kind of like badge. Oh, I roll with this, because I think just all of that leads to a really bad place. To me personally.
Well, it's very prideful. It's a very prideful place.
Yeah. Let's go into this, because I did share this video with you. And see, we were worried like, oh, we didn't have anything to talk about. I wasn't even.
I never worry about having anything to talk about.
I wasn't worried. I was not worried. Trust me. So if you do a search, which I'm gonna pull up a search here and show you guys, where's my where did I do mine here? Hold on one second. If you search Florida man, you're gonna see this story that I'm about to talk about here. So, and I think you looked at this video, right? So there was a guy here in Florida. I think I saw Guns and Gear shared this video, and I'm just going to go through a little bit of it. There was a guy in Florida on the road that got into an incident. He's recording himself, and if you look at this video, at this point where he's shooting in his own car, he's doing 100 miles an hour.
He's got a dash cam too, right?
Yeah, I think this is a pickup. This is a pickup truck from what I could see here. And what happened, the story, just to go through the story with folks here, there was someone in looks like a Nissan Z that bumped that. There was some kind of road rage thing. I think he brake checked this guy, and maybe he flipped this guy the bird, and then the guy was behind him. And the guy bumped him in the like bumped into the back of his car, which they're showing right now. Um, okay, here I think it's coming up. The guy bumps the back of a pickup truck, and he's driving a Nissan Z. That doesn't make sense. And somehow this guy, and then the guy maybe shows a gun or something like that, puts a gun out the window or something to scare him. This guy's driving along and just casually decides, yeah, I'm going to start shooting through my windshield here. Um, so I don't know if the folks out there have seen this. Let us know if you've seen it. If you haven't seen it, you can easily look it up. It's called "Driver Shoots Through Windshield on Freeway" in self-defense. I guess is what it's saying here. What did you think about this, Jerah? Let's start there. Did you take a look
Oh
at this?
my God. Like, I I have so many questions. Okay. So
Hmm.
I want to know, like, does this guy have a carry permit for the gun? And the reason that I ask this is because did he get any kind of education, or is he just carrying this gun to carry this gun? When did he start recording on the dash cam? Does he just run around recording himself all day long on a dash cam, or did he turn this on after the guy started, weaving in and out or bumping in
Yeah,
the
so
back of the
let me set
car,
this. This was in Florida. It was on a Florida highway, I believe in the Orlando area. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong there. And this guy seems like he just has a dash cam that's running all the time. It's recording a lot of data because it was putting how fast he was going, and maybe he was driving fast because of what was happening here. But this happened on the highway, and this guy turned this footage in, and he wasn't. There were no charges pressed against him. At this point, there haven't been any charges. So,
There should be.
yeah. So, the weird thing about this is, um, I'm gonna say that someone needs to look at this more closely for sure. Now, I don't know how much danger a pickup truck is in from a Nissan, from like a Nissan Z. And if the guy bumps you on the highway or you get into any situation, like let's forget about who flipped to the bird or anything like that. If someone decides to bump your car with their car on the highway, that's very dangerous. Right there, you probably, if regardless of whether it's your fault, their fault, you should be probably dialing 911 at that point. I would
Oh,
think.
100%. I mean,
Yeah.
if they're going to charge the police officer in Breonna Taylor's case with
Hmm.
wanton endangerment,
Hmm.
that's what needs to happen here,
Hmm.
because I can't think of a single solitary reason why you need to open fire on the open road.
Yeah.
Why you should be shooting out of your vehicle at another vehicle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because
Now,
there's other
road rage
cars.
incidents
It's broad
happen.
daylight. It's broad
Yeah.
daylight, and
And
there's other cars in front of them.
well,
Um.
of course. And what's the fourth rule of gun safety? Know your target and what lies in front of and behind it. And so
Hmm.
there was a road rage incident that happened in Washington State. A girl named Aubrey Taylor. She came and spoke at one of my classes. She was knocked off her motorcycle by someone in standstill traffic, and he started beating the crap out of her. And he was much, much bigger than she was, and so she pulled her gun out and shot him in the stomach and killed him.
Hmm.
That was, to me, justifiable, because she was point blank range, like he was on
Hmm.
top of her trying to choke her out. She pulls her gun out of appendix and shoots him in the stomach. To
Hmm.
me, that's justifiable, because there was no one else that was necessarily in danger
Yeah.
of that. He's opening fire from his vehicle. He's got a passenger. There's cars. You can see when the dash cam switches, you can see all the other cars
Hmm.
on the open road in front of him, and he just starts shooting wildly out of his windshield. And I
Yeah.
don't even think he hit the guy.
No, I don't think so. So there's a whole bunch of different things going on here. Shooting out of a windshield. I don't know whether or not you've done that or not. You're a trainer. I'm going to assume you've done some kind of stuff like that. And I know it's
Yes.
getting dark out there.
Yeah, I'm gonna go in the house. But keep
Yeah.
keep talking.
So shooting out of a windshield, and I've done that. It's not very effective unless there's an actual person in front of you very close to you, right? So
Correct.
once you start shooting at the windshield, and depending what you're shooting at that windshield with, and all that kind of stuff, yes, it's gonna do things. And I see people saying that. If you're in, I'm not saying there's no situation where you would do that. That I would only do something like that if I really, really, really had to do it, and I doubt I would be doing that while I'm doing 100 miles an hour on the highway.
Correct.
Yeah, and it has to be a person there. If you're shooting at like through your windshield at a car that also has a windshield, that's probably not going to be effective, and you have no
No.
idea where those rounds are going down the road. So
Correct.
I think that's very dangerous, and they just this guy got lucky that no one got injured on that road. I wouldn't be surprised if some people found some bullet holes or something in their car that they have no clue how it got there.
Well, and what ammunition was he using? I
Hmm.
mean, did he have hollow points? Did he have full metal jacket in there?
Yeah, I don't
That's
know.
something to consider
Yeah,
too. And I think that now did he? And another question that I have too is, did he release this footage on
yeah,
social media,
he did
or did some? Okay, so to me, that also speaks to the fact that I think he was looking to go viral. He was looking for
probably.
attention. He was looking, and I think that
But
he
he
may
looked
have
like he
been
was in
under.
operator mode to me as well in that thing.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't I didn't so whether that's good or bad, I know some people might say, "Oh, he's got the right. This is Florida. I live in Florida. You do have the right to defend yourself." I don't know if this guy was in a situation, even if someone puts a gun out the window to defend themselves, someone bump checking you on the highway, call 911. Okay? If they're putting a gun out the window, call 911 before you do anything. If you have to defend yourself, defend yourself. But if two cars are moving and one of them is a pickup truck beats little Nissan Z car.
Well, but not even
So,
that. I mean, if you look at how it went down, he was bump checked, and then the car went around him and was leaving. So
mhm,
if you look at, if that happened in Texas, I think that that would fall under, you can't use force or deadly force for somebody that's going away from you.
mhm,
So that person had gone around and was going away from him.
mhm,
Whether they produced a firearm or not was pretty irrelevant at that time, because he had the choice to slow down. He
mhm,
could have slowed down. He could have exited off the highway. He could have created distance between he and that car. And also, that car was speeding heavily away from him. So there was no point in shooting him at that time.
mhm.
There
Yeah.
was not 1 ounce of a reason that he had to open fire on the open road like that. And I think
No.
it was ridiculous. I think it was irresponsible. I think it was heinous. And I think he should have charges filed against him. I think he was stupid for releasing that footage on the internet, thinking that people were going to go, "Oh, you're so badass," or "Go
Mhm.
you," or that the Second Amendment community would even remotely support that. And God, I hope they don't.
I don't know anyone. I mean, that's a good question. We could find out if someone would support that. I don't know that that guy was in. So look, the fact that they bumped his car, that's definitely some kind of insurance issue and definitely some sort of assault, right? And if you have this tracked by the fact that you have any, I mean, he obviously has two dash cams, right? So he's got one looking behind him and one looking in front of him. You have this evidence. You need to forward this to the cops with those guys' license plates. It's highly likely. The first thing I thought, I'm going to tell you guys just, and if you, by the way, if you just search Florida man, you're going to see this nonsense. So that's the easy way, because this guy is now like Florida Man of the Year or something. But it's highly likely. The first thing when I looked at this, I thought, for those guys to be in that car bumping into a pickup truck on the highway that's at speed, that's probably a stolen car. So in other words,
Maybe.
like, would you be in your car and someone cuts you off or flips you the bird and then you use your car to bump them? Why would you do that?
No,
Yeah.
no.
So that is that's something. So without a doubt, that's something that the folks in the other car did. But if they're really that crazy, there's a lot of different things going on here. And if you could avoid that situation of getting into, like, you're now dumping a magazine out your front windshield, I would try to avoid that. Like, call 911, tell them you're on the highway, this is what's happening. If you can, get out of there, and they will track that person down, right? They're aware of what highway that this is on and all that kind of stuff, and they could do something about that you don't have to get involved in. So this person put the gun out the window. If they're not firing at you, you don't need to be firing at them over that. But even if they're trying to shoot at you and you're all on the highway and you're going this fast, you're in a pickup truck and they're in that car.
Correct.
They're in that little car. So There's a lot that can go on here, but if you wind up having one of those rounds go through your windshield and hit a car that's in front of you with a little kid or something like that in it, or anyone, someone's mom, dad, brother, or sister, or whatever, and then you take that person out, they crash, whatever, maybe even more people get injured out of that. I don't know where the rationale is for that. I don't know where. I wouldn't have a lot of understanding for that unless you guys were stopped on the highway. So if for some reason someone forces me to stop on the highway and they're approaching, and this is what I think we see in situations when cops do that, right? Maybe someone's approaching them like out of their car, the cop's still in their car, that person's approaching them, shooting at them. Okay, maybe I could see why you're shooting through your windshield. This guy just went to that like he trained for it or he was dreaming about it, and it wasn't even a thing.
He was a desperate fool that wanted to go viral. I mean, this was not good decision making. And this is really a testament on why it's so important to teach mindset. To influence your students on when you're supposed to be shooting and when you're not supposed to be shooting, because self-defense has to be deployed with wisdom and tact all the time, not sometimes, not every now and then, not when you feel like it. It has to be deployed with wisdom and tact every single time, because you have to think about so much more than just you when you're in public like that. You've got to think about your target, and you have to know what lies before and after it. And I will personally be extremely disappointed if charges aren't filed against this person.
Yeah, Vanessa Kitty's asking me, why do I care about someone else's vehicle? How the heck do I know they're a criminal? I don't think it's that. What I'm saying to you is that if these guys, to me, someone in their vehicle that's willing to risk their vehicle bumping into me and all that, it's probably not their vehicle. And what I'm saying to you, if there's some guys in a little car like this that are willing to bump you, these guys are serious. And that's why I'm saying there's nothing wrong with you thinking like, uh-oh, I'm in some stuff right now and I may have to defend myself. But these guys are pretty serious if they're on the highway chasing down a pickup truck, okay, with a little car, and they're out there bumping it and doing all that kind of stuff, and you're not, it's the highway is not necessarily Mogadishu. If you're in danger, I get it, right? If you feel like you're in danger, but I don't know that person was in immediate danger from these people. Definitely,
I can tell you 100% they weren't. 100% he wasn't. The car was going away from him.
Maybe if these guys were crazy enough to do what they're doing and he stopped, he could have been in trouble. Right? If these were some criminals or something and they stole this car and they don't care, but this wasn't a situation where he was stopped, where he had them like pulled over or something like that. This is, you're on the highway, there's other people down there, you're shooting through your windshield at a car and for you to hit that car, you have to hit another windshield to even do anything inside of that car to who you feel is like threatening you.
Right. And there's no justification for this whatsoever. I was completely floored when I saw it, and I was just, very disheartening, because it's people who do stupid shit like this that makes it harder for other gun owners, like good gun owners and good, carry permit holders, because you're not making a rational decision on when you're supposed to be shooting someone. And if they're going away from you, which the car was, the Nissan Z was going away from you, that it's not like they were stopped. It's not like they were brake checking him. I saw no evidence of that in the video, that they were like brake checking him or trying to get him to pull over, or trying to impede his motion at all. So there was absolutely zero reason for him to shoot through that windshield. I think this is
where you call in the professionals, the police. That's probably what you do. And I do not envision a circumstance that even if the police were, let's go further down this rabbit hole for the people out, just for my amusement. Let's say you call the cops and the cops are out there, and this Z is out there flying down the highway and the cops are chasing it. Do you really think that police officer is going to go, let me just start shooting through my windshield?
No. Not even a little
If
bit.
they want to get that car to pull over or something, and first of all, they're going to take into consideration that there's other cars on this highway and things that could go. Hopefully, okay, all police don't do that without a doubt, right? But they're going to take that into consideration, and the bigger weapon is the vehicle that you're already in versus, that those rounds, and in this case, probably 9mm that you're trying to put through the windshield, right? The bigger weapon's the vehicle that you're in. So I'm not saying that this guy should have ran that Nissan Z off the road, but I think that even if the cops were chasing that guy and they were trying to get him off the road, they wouldn't be shooting through their windshield in order to do that. So,
No, not even remotely.
Yeah. It's damn Florida, man. It's just
Florida's bringing out the crazies right now.
Yeah, there's I don't know. There's probably we're gonna find out more. I don't know anything about that guy. He didn't look familiar.
If we wait till next week, we'll probably have more to talk about.
Someone will know who that is or something. He's gonna wind up being some kind of trainer or something.
Oh God, no. No. No.
You're taking bets that no way that's a trainer or anyone. Okay.
No way that's a trainer.
I don't know. Let me look at this video again. Hold on a second. Let me see here.
I'll have to admit I was wrong if it was, but I'm not thinking he's a trainer.
Let's see what kind of hold on. Now I know this is gonna be some prejudice here. So let me look at the let's look at this. Okay, so let's see if I don't know if I could blow this up.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys are even seeing any of this, but yeah, this guy, he's got a hat, tattoos, a Casio watch. I can't see if he's got his t-shirt tucked in. So, but he's looking very super. He's got the beard, all of that. Yeah, very tactical. Very, very, I don't know. That's very tactical.
I'm watching it too.
It's looking very like let me see. Let me just play some videos here, see if I could get any.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what kind of t-shirt that is he's wearing, what kind of hat,
Even his passenger is
he was appendix carrying.
It looks, that, man.
See, he's appendix carrying.
Yep.
Yeah. Interesting. This guy looked like he trained for this scenario in a class or something like that. I'm just being facetious. I don't know. It's going to be interesting what we find out later.
I think that's some dude desperate for attention, and he's going to get all the attention he doesn't want. He's going to get all the attention he doesn't want over there.
Absolutely. So James Miller says, does he have his eyes closed? Well, I think he's blinking. You're going to be blinking if windshield's coming back at you.
Yeah,
or
and
shell
you can
casings.
see it's kind of,
It looks like there's some shell casings coming back. And all that kind of all of that's gonna happen inside the car if you've never done it. So Dan Hates You says, is it a G-code holster, Gucci Glock?
He also says he's driver 0.
Oh, that's Dan Hates You. Oh, that's cold.
Yeah, he's driver 0. That's awesome, dude.
Vanessa Kitty says, perhaps if he shot while going around a curve, he would curve the bullet like in the movie Wanted. Okay.
No, ma'am.
Len Holt says it's either a faded NRA shirt or a gun nerd shirt. Oh, please don't let it be a gun nerd shirt. I will hold my head in shame. I will discontinue those shirts. They'll never be around ever again. I carry my revolver in single action says he tactical AF.
Yeah, and he really put his passenger at a lot of risk too. There was he wasn't handling the vehicle because he was shooting with both hands. The glass was kind of flying in, or the shell casings were flying and hitting the passenger. So I wouldn't be his friend no more.
No.
To me,
there's gonna be some lawsuits right there. The minute I guarantee you that dude, the minute the passenger saw that video go up, he did a couple of things. One, he saved that video.
Yeah. He
downloaded that video very quickly. Two, he called up his lawyer. I want to know, is there some money? Is there some money in this?
Can I get some money out of this?
Yeah,
yes. And I do. I think he needs to be charged with some sort of wanton endangerment
Mm-hmm.
type charge, or whatever the equivalent of that is in Florida, because, and I think he will. I think a prosecutor would be stupid not to do that. You can't, there has got to be a lesson learned from that. And if he gets off scot-free for it, my faith in the justice system is going to be pretty depleted.
I hope the cops track both of them down. Obviously, he's on social media, so he shouldn't be that difficult to track down. But I hope they track down whatever went on with that car, whether it was stolen, not stolen. If that was just a person driving their car out of their mind. I don't want you to touch my car when I'm driving. I don't want another vehicle to make contact with my vehicle. So I'm not going to make contact with somebody else's vehicle. That doesn't, I don't know, that's just me. So, yeah. And Vanessa Katie says his passenger should sue the heck out of the driver enough to buy his own truck to never have to ride with that one.
He should have, I'll take it a step further. He should have beat the hell out of him.
Yeah.
He should have, like, as soon as that car pulled over, he should have beat the hell out of that dude.
Yeah.
I mean, this is insanity.
I hope that wasn't that guy's boss or something like that, man, and he doesn't have to keep riding with that dude. If that's your boss, please let us know. Let us know. Motorboater says he was blinking from the wind in his eyes. Yep. You know,
yeah,
that's
probably
safety.
That too.
Huh?
That's too. I mean, I would agree with that.
Yeah, and Night Train says, well, he wasn't wearing a mask for one thing. And James Miller says, come on, Hank, you're not into bumper cars? No. And why would you be going up against a pick? I don't know. Maybe that's just my male brain. Now, why are you picking a fight in a little tiny car like that with a pickup truck?
So many questions that we won't know the answer to them for days.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever, so I know that you said you've been through some things before, but have you ever been in a road rage scenario like this, or been close to something, becoming something like this? Okay.
Oh, yeah, but it was never a situation where, I needed to pull my gun while I was on the road. But I did, and this is why you shouldn't text and drive. So I did cut someone off in traffic because I was texting and driving, and they followed me to a gas station. I knew they were following me. And I knew I was wrong, right? So, I mean, I think a big part of it is we got to admit our mistakes. But I pulled over in a public gas station. I drove a truck at the time, a big Lariat. And the guy pulled up behind me, got out of the car. I could see his hands. He didn't have any weapons in his hands. Doesn't mean he wasn't armed. It just means it wasn't in his hand. And I had pulled my gun from the door of the truck, and just when he got up to my window and he started, yelling at me, I just, kind of tapped the muzzle on the window and said, man, I was wrong and I'm sorry, but I'm not dealing with this with you today. So you got to think about that too. I mean, even if you're in the right in a road rage situation, you don't know that the other person isn't armed. And that directly correlates to what we just watched, the video that we just watched. You don't know who's armed and who's not armed. So even if somebody does some, dumbass shit to you in traffic, it's really not worth it to pursue that, right? I mean, if you've got a dash cam, turn it on, get the footage, get the license plate number, let the police deal with them. It might take a little bit, but everybody's going to walk away. Nobody, and no innocent person's going to get hurt. But don't be following people to gas stations, and don't be pulling out your gun and shooting at moving targets on the open road. That's irresponsible. And the likelihood of you actually hitting your target is severely low.
Yeah. And I would agree with you on that. I mean, I think if something, like, I don't even really understand the psychology behind people who feel like they need to follow you. Something happened for whatever reason. Guess what? You're okay. If there was an accident, I get it. Right? Now you want to exchange IDs or something like that. You want to wait for the cops and all that kind of stuff. By the way, technically in that, and I just thought about this, in Florida, if there's an accident, it's a crime for you to leave the scene of the accident. So those guys, if they bumped him, technically, that's a problem right there. If you bump someone, everyone's got to pull over and stay. And actually, it's the law. You have to check on the other person and make sure they're okay and all that. But that's all besides the point. If nothing happened, someone cut you off, you're mad. Okay? Maybe you honked the horn. Maybe you cursed. Maybe you flipped them the bird. Why do you need to follow them now? Why do you need to know this person?
yeah, so the psychology is like, now you're like, well, I got to teach them a lesson because
About
they're just
what?
going to keep doing this, you know.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so have you seen the Netflix documentary Tread?
No.
Okay, you need to watch that because
Okay.
it's about it, this is basically Tread is basically this on like a grandiose scale.
Hmm.
Only it doesn't have to do with road rage, but the guy, the short version of it is the guy, and this happened, I think, in Colorado, like right outside of Denver, maybe or something.
Hmm.
And he was being screwed over by the city council on some property that he had purchased, and they were basically trying to run him out of town. And it was completely unfair.
Hmm.
And so it was basically this, these government officials that were trying to get this guy out of town. So what does he do? He goes to California and buys a big, like, it's not a bob. It's like a big backhoe
Oh,
bobcat looking. I'm
bulldozer.
not
Is this the killdozer thing?
bulldozer.
Is this the
Yes,
killdozer? Oh, okay.
yes.
Yeah,
And
someone
he
was telling me about
outfitted it in armor.
that. Right.
Hank, listen, to
Yeah.
the point
Hmm.
where he had an air compressor in it and cameras outside of it. And so he literally destroyed every person that screwed him over in that
Hmm.
town. He destroyed their business. He ran it over with this huge ass bulldozer that he had outfitted in all of this armor, and then he had the cameras so he could see outside of it, and then he would push this button on the air compressor and it would blow all the debris off the cameras. This guy
Wow.
was like solid in.
And this is
Solid
on
in.
documentary. This is on Netflix. It's called Tread.
Yeah, it's called Tread, and you have got to watch it because you're sort of like you're like half on his side, and
Hmm.
then you're half like this dude has lost it.
Hmm.
Okay, but it's like what happens, when it was like like a tiny tyrannical government, trying to like come down on this guy. But now he took these extreme measures, and so that's what this dude did. Is he's like, oh, this guy's gonna mess with me. I got to teach him a lesson, just like the guy who made the bulldozer was like, I got to teach these people a lesson
Hmm.
and why they shouldn't treat other people like this.
Yeah.
And that's probably the mentality that he had.
Yeah. Brick says he had a 50 mounted on it.
He did. He did. And it was insane. Okay. And
Hmm.
they had snipers on like hilltops, like
Hmm.
trying to take him out. And they
Hmm.
couldn't because he was like this amazing welder.
Hmm.
And so his shit was so tight, nobody was getting in there.
Hmm. Yeah.
Nobody was getting in there.
Well,
So
this
it
is
was
you
just,
never know who you're dealing with. Listen, I don't know, man. I don't think, and I've been in situations. I remember, first of all, like I like small little zippy cars like that. I really do. And I had a little small zippy car like that. But here, where I lived, everyone has pickup trucks.
yeah.
And I remember I was zipping in and out of traffic because that's why I have little zippy cars. And there was a guy in a pickup truck that was mad or something like that, and he was trying to catch up to me. And I did think, okay, maybe this guy's mad, but if he gets out of his car, then we have a situation. Like I think he caught up to me somewhere where we were stuck in traffic. So I was like, oh well, I guess I'm just gonna sit here and wait and see what this guy does. But the guy didn't. He didn't get out of his car. To be honest with you, I don't even know. Maybe the guy was telling me, "Oh, that's a cool car." Maybe someone who recognized. I don't know. But once you get out of your car now and you're coming over to fight with me, here's my thing. If I take my gun out, I'm already on the path of something. And I
Mm-hmm.
think this is what people need to think about. It's not to say you can't take your gun out and then you don't have to use it. But once you start going down this road, it's very difficult to stop your momentum, right? So
That's
for anyone
correct.
in these situations, you need to remember that once you're in motion,
It's
we're
hard to
talking
not be in
physics.
motion.
Yeah, we're talking
Yep.
about physics here. So, um, but people, listen, we all do things to each other that makes us get mad and all that kind of stuff. We got to figure out how to deal with it and not have it get to this, because I think in this scenario, this guy just got lucky that he didn't really hurt anyone that didn't need to be hurt. I don't know if I care about the people in the Z getting hurt or anything like that. Because they were obviously up to some shenanigans. So we'll see how that whole thing goes. Okay, so I know we've got a couple of minutes here. And see, like I said to you, you're worried. Got nothing.
I
Yeah.
was never worried. I don't think
Yeah.
don't be lying to
You were saying,
people. I
remember
was
you were
never
saying, oh, I
worried.
don't want to just talk to you. This was more fun the other
That
time. There was other people.
that is
Now I
not what
just got
I
to talk to Hank
said.
Strange this whole time. No.
That's not even what I said. It's fake
No, it's
news. That's
not.
fake
Yes,
news.
it is. Very fake news. Really fake.
It's fake news.
Yeah.
Fake.
Absolutely. So what's going on with you? What's coming up next with you before we even start thinking of getting out of here? What's your next moves? Where's the next places people could see you? I know you're building ranges sometimes. You're doing the class. So what's coming up?
Yeah. Well, the best thing to do is, either follow me on Facebook or Instagram at Clearing the Chamber, because I'm doing the Done Right podcast coming up. I'm doing the Fireside Chats podcast. I'm doing the Cigar Talk podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So I love cigars and bourbon. I was sipping on some bourbon when we first got started.
Okay, cool. I see. That's what lubricated you then.
I had to get going,
Yeah, you got that bourbon.
Yep.
Okay.
And then I've got some, we're probably going to do another coverage of the debates on the Patrick Bet-David podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've got some, projects coming up. We're still doing Project Safe Neighborhood with Tier 1. And then I've still got the WADE stuff going on. So my nonprofit is WADE, which is the Women's Awareness and Defense Endeavor. And we raise money to teach low-income women and single moms how to defend themselves. And we've got some classes coming up for WADE in October and November for sure.
Okay, very cool. And so the number one place that folks out there, if someone's looking at this, they enjoyed this conversation, maybe they want to have a conversation with you, the best way for them to do that?
Is either on Facebook or Instagram at Clearing the Chamber. So definitely shoot me a direct message if you have questions, if you're interested in a class, if you just want to have a general chat. Let's do that. Both of those are monitored heavily and daily.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Listen, I like how, I like your flow. I like, I like your point of view, your attitude, your steez. It's all good. So hopefully we can get you to come back on here. I think the folks out there appreciate it as well. I know now you're getting all big time, you're doing stuff with, what is it? PBE, PDE,
PBD.
PBD, there you go. I didn't even know that. See, that's what threw me off, the whole PBD thing. But I hope that you're like, now we don't have to like get in touch with your assistant in order to get
No, you've got a direct line. And then, another thing too is don't forget about the 2A rally. That's coming up. I'm looking up their social.
Are you talking about the virtual one? Or?
Yeah, we were gonna go. Yeah, we were gonna go to DC. It got moved to virtual, which sucks. But on Instagram, follow 2A Rally. It's gonna be on October 24th. So tune in. There's some really great speakers, man. We've got Dana Lash is doing some stuff. I'm doing some stuff. And then there's a lot of other really good speakers. Rob Pincus is involved in that. You had him on the show. Yeah.
Terrible
me,
guy.
I think.
Terrible guy.
Yeah. Awful person. Yeah. Pretty much.
No. I've known Rob for a long time. He's so cool, man.
Yeah,
every time he comes on here, at least half the people get mad at him.
Oh, I know. He's very he just says what he thinks, and he doesn't really care much.
It's awesome. I love it.
About the aftermath. But the thing I like about him is I know he's gonna tell me. He's going to tell me straight up, I don't have to worry about
he
where
also
he
likes pushing people's buttons. I'm just telling you.
He really does.
Sometimes he does that on my stuff. Like I post stuff and he goes on there and he says weird cryptic stuff. And then I hit him. I'm like, Rob, what, I don't understand what you mean by this. It's too, I don't get it. He's like, oh, I'm just trying to activate people.
Yeah, he thinks too deep. But I'm taking a class from him on Saturday. He's going to be in the DFW area. So, cool. But go on Instagram and follow at the number 2A Rally.
Yeah, let me see. I think I'm following that. Let me pull them up and it's just 2A Rally, right? Yeah,
yep,
there we go.
That's it.
So there you go, guys. If you just put in 2A Rally, you start typing, it's going to come up. I'm already following them. Good thing to do if you guys want to keep up with this, especially since it's going to be virtual. So there's no reason.
Why you can't be there.
Yeah, why you're going to be. I'm not sure exactly what time that's going to be going live. Let me see if I can see it there. It's probably going to be for hours and hours during the day, right?
Yeah, I think when we did it last year in DC, it was like 4 hours.
Yeah.
I think. So pop on and off, kind of see your favorite Second Amendment speakers. And men, just remember that this is so important. And, so bring it up in conversation, teach your kids about it, and don't forget to train.
All right, awesome. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up everything here. Thanks so much for everyone for being out there with us. Big shout out to Harry's Holsters. Stay right there, Jerah. I'm going to run in the end. Boom, there we go. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell so you can be notified every time we go live. We're going to put out the audio from this and put it up on iTunes and other places that you guys get your audio podcasts from. Lots of people around the world listening to us. That's very cool. We appreciate it, as well as we really do appreciate all the good folks listening to us here. Please go support Jerah, Hutchins, Clearing the Chamber. That's what you need to look up, Clearing the Chamber. Thanks so much for coming on, Jerah. I will give you the final word.
Oh man, I didn't know you were going to give me the final word. Hey, you guys have an awesome night, and don't forget, get strapped or get clapped.
There you go. Boom. This is not the. I forgot this too. Sorry. It's not really the. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to apologize. I just remembered there is no show tomorrow night. So there's no show tomorrow night. No show Monday. We'll be back Tuesday. Taking a couple of days off to get some stuff done. So I know I'll probably post something on social media to remind you guys. Do you want the actual real last word?
Nope, you got it, man.
There you go. She said it. She did it anyway. We're out of here. Peace. See you guys.